This tape has been copyrighted. Any duplication or reproduction without written consent is prohibited.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna kind of cut my thing a little short because we're running out of time, but I'm going to go over some things I think are important. Well, I want to just share you a couple of things, the next 15 minutes about this book, Bringing Out the Best in Others. Because doggone it, it's just worth it. I wish it just is. In this book, he says, what creates constantly high performance, which is what we want out of ourselves and we want out of our people, right? Don't you want to be able to create high performance, consistently high performance, okay? He says, now all of you are firstborn, who are firstborns, raise your hands. Who's a firstborn in here? Raise your hand if you're firstborn. Okay, hold on. Keep your hand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, okay? So about a third, right, of the room, more or less, is a firstborn. He says, 3 more, Mike, Janet, and Lloyd. Mary hesitated, lowered her hand too. You too, Mary? An only child counts as a firstborn. Carlos, what about you? I was the second youngest of 6, said Carlos. One older brother for us. Interesting, said Tony. 4 out of 5, and in all the programs I've held on this topic, the average has been about 60% firstborns. Now, these are people that are really motivated and want to get better, okay? So 60% of, when he asks this question, when he does his seminar, 60% are firstborns. That's a high number, right? He says, you're wondering why I asked that, aren't you? It wasn't because I'm nosy, although, as others will tell you, I'm certainly a curious fellow. It's because of something I became aware about 10 years ago when I first started looking at this whole issue of high performance. Whenever I talked with a manager, supervisor, team leader, or executive, I would ask questions about their top performers. A sales manager would say to me, what I need is 4 more reps like George. Not having a clue about George, I would ask for more details. Well, he's a top performer in every way. The sales manager would say he does his homework on what the customer needs. He goes into each call well prepared. He gets the extra call at the end of the day, and it pays off. He always number 1 or 2 in everything we measure. Sales volume, gross margin, dollars, new accounts, account retention, customer satisfaction, you name it, he's there. Can you give me George's phone number, asked Mary, and the others laughed. I've got a spot for him. And his 12 brothers and sisters. Tony smiled. Nice try, Mary. Sorry George is happily employed, or was 10 years ago. But you raised 2 interesting points. One is about the brothers and sisters. That's important, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The other point is that you've already have several potential Georges on your payroll. So do you guys, by the way. Marvin could be a George. Pat, maybe Pat too. I'm going to show you how to tap their full potential while you're going to see a bump in sales, and you're going to see a bump in sales when you do. 10%, 20%, maybe even 30%. We've even gotten 40 and 50% improvement in a number of cases in a couple of instances involving just one individual and one product. We actually hit 200%, but 10 to 20% is the norm. That would be good, right? Tony could says, I was looking for a pattern, a system. I hoped to find something I could replicate and teach to others, but high achievers just seemed to happen. So I began to dig deeper. I asked questions about the high achievers' backgrounds. There were lots of possibilities, education, money, experience, the usual suspects, but these things didn't correlate with achievement as strongly as I'd expected. Trying to find some factor that could reliably predict success was like searching for a diamond in a gravel pit. Then I discovered something odd. I read a report that said 64% of the people listed in Who's Who happen to be the oldest children in their families. One study doesn't mean much of anything in statistics, but it made me wonder, could it actually be that simple? Could being a firstborn make such a difference? I began to check out the statistics on firstborns, and what I found amazed me. So if you're taking notes, here are a few facts to write down and think about. Fact number 1, 2/3 of all entrepreneurs are firstborns. The fact number 2, of the first 23 astronauts, 21 were firstborns. Fact number 3, a 10-year study of 1,500 Superior, Wisconsin 9th graders showed that 49% of them were firstborns. That's a nice set of facts, said Carlos, but what's the relevance? We're here to brush up on our leadership skills, not to learn how to recruit firstborns, right? Of course, replied Tony. The same thought occurred to me, but you're just a little ahead of the story. Stay with me a minute and you'll see the point. More facts. Female world leaders between 1960 and 1999, 45% were firstborn. Firstborns are twice as likely to become CEOs as laterborns. 55% of all Supreme Court justices have been firstborns. Over half of the United States presidents have been firstborns. Here's an interesting finding. One study showed that more than half the people elected president of the American Psychological Association were firstborns. Incidentally, it's the same with people who were elected to the National Academy of Sciences. And according to a study done in 1874, firstborns were overrepresented among the fellows of the Royal Society, England's Distinguished Scientific Academy. When you say overrepresented, what percentage would you expect? Asked Mike, maybe there are just more firstborns than people realize. Good question. In general, population firstborns make up about 35%, including, as I said, only. This gives only children. This gives a basis for comparison. For example, in one Air Force study, 80% of high-achieving military pilots were firstborn. That's more than twice the percentage you'd expect to find being firstborn. You'd expect if being firstborn made no difference. Here's more. 55% of highly creative scientists at one major chemical company, creative meaning having a PhD and getting more than one patent, were firstborns. Carlos leaned forward to share. Just out of curiosity, do you ever find any firstborns among the lowest performers? As a matter of fact, yes. For example, in the last study I mentioned, chemical company, 14% of low creative scientists, that is PhDs with 0 patents, were firstborns. It's not a guarantee of success, just a strong indicator. Now this brings up the issue. This leadership program, not an employment practice somewhere. We're not here to learn how to round up firstborns and pen them in our corral. That's labor-intensive and not worth the effort you'd have to spend to do it, and it's no guarantee of success, although I'm no lawyer, it's probably illegal. But Carlos' question leads to another more interesting question. What is it about firstborns that makes them top performers? Can we identify the environmental factors that tend to lead to higher levels of performance among firstborns, and can we use these factors to make a top performer or at least significantly perform better out of any associate or employee, or any committee member, or any team task forming, or any student, or any child? Starting with the people we have, how do we bring out the best in them? How do we tap their full potential? Not everyone can be great, but most can be better than they are. That's the key. Not everybody can be great, but everybody can be better than they are. Would you agree with that? Okay. By leadership alone, we can get others to perform at higher levels simply by tapping into their full potential. You'll notice that I'm limiting this discussion to environmental factors, not genetic ones. As fifth out of six, anyways, Tony and the others laugh. Good, happy, you'll be da-da-da-da. And he goes, but let's cut to the chase. I was looking for environmental factors, specifically what was different about the way firstborns were raised, about the way they were treated by the people around them, their parents, their schools. There are lots of possibilities, of course. Things like being raised by younger parents, which as we all know, has its downside as well as advantage. I read the psychology journals. I talked with child psychologists. I interviewed parents. I watched families in action. I learned a lot. I identified dozens, maybe hundreds of things that could potentially influence success in life. But when it came to the differences between firstborns and the rest of the children in a family, there were 3 factors that stood above the rest. Firstborns get more positive expectations, more responsibility, and more feedback. Because there's more time. When you just have the firstborns, as you're a new parent, you can shower that firstborn with a lot more attention than you can once you have a second child that you have to care for. Right? So it's not that they were firstborn, it's because of the environmental factors of being firstborn, okay, which you can replicate, by the way, in your base shops with all of your people. This is why this book's so powerful when you understand this, okay? So let me go on. Okay, let's start with first thing, expectations, all right? There's those 3 things. Expectations. People have more positive expectations for firstborns. They're going to be president of the senior class, the all-star quarterback, head cheerleader, captain of the tennis team, whatever they're involved in, they're expected to excel, right? So the parent's expectation of the child grows pretty dramatically, right? Okay? And so what does that tell you about what your expectation should be of those people that come into your base shop? Yeah. See, what happens that you don't realize that you do a lot, you look at people and you judge them. And then you have an expectation based on your judgment of them. And even if it's not a vocal judgment, it comes across in a lot of different ways. It comes across in your body language, how you talk to them, whether you look at them directly or not. All kinds of things. It manifests itself, and that has an effect on them. That's almost subconscious. So having a point of view where you have an expectation for everybody to do well, while at the same time knowing and realizing not everybody's going to do well, but having that be your expectation. One of the reasons that Kurt's doing so well and you're doing so well, Mike, is because you have an expectation that's clear and defined for the new person. Does everybody do it? No. But because you have an expectation, you get more people to do it than would otherwise. And it becomes a fulfilling prophecy within your base shop. You with me? That's one of the things that why Daniel's done well. His expectation is for people to do $10,000 a month in personal premium. He's always had that. That's his personal expectation. That's the expectation he's had in his base shop. Does everybody do it, Daniel? Absolutely not. But he gets more people than normal to do it. And even the ones that don't do 10, he gets a lot more people doing 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 because of that expectation, right? And guess who creates the expectation in your bay shop? You do. We do, right? So expectation is critically important. The second part is responsibility. Second factor, firstborns are given more responsibility at an earlier age. They're asked to look after and help take care of their younger brothers and sisters, right? Those of you that are firstborns, hasn't that been true for you? Or if you have firstborns, don't you look to your firstborn to kind of round up the kids and make sure things happen? And, if you leave for a little while, they watch the kids and all kinds of stuff, right? Go buy the movie tickets. When they go to the movies together or to the mall or out to the street to meet the ice cream truck, the oldest is given the money, the cell phone, the directions on how to get there and what to buy and what not to do. So you give them more responsibility. So what are the responsibilities that you're passing on to your new teammates? You need to expect, and then you need to give them responsibility. Okay? Third thing is feedback. The third factor, firstborns get more feedback. They get more attention from parents, relatives, family, friends. They have more pictures taken of them. Parents spend more time encouraging them to walk and talk. They get a lot more feedback. Well, you're laughing because it's true, right? You can remember, right? It's totally true. And so there's a lot more feedback. And so they're knowing what to do, right? To me, this was very exciting information. It meant that we could actually identify 3 distinct conditions that tend to make firstborns better than average achievers, and having identified them, we could examine them and study them and learn from them, and perhaps we could replicate them in other situations. Business offices, retail stores, whatever. You see, the important thing to keep in mind is that these factors are not intrinsic to firstborns. They are plainly environmental. Okay? And here's the most wonderful, amazing thing about them. It's the presence of the 3 factors that make the difference. All 3 factors. So those 3 factors have to become present in how you deal with your people within your bay shop, your teammates. Okay? It says it's not about being firstborn. It's about the presence of the 3 factors. Sure, they happen to be present more often with firstborns than with those born later, but when we put these 3 factors into practice with later-born children, they have worked there as well. When we use the factors on a sales team, they worked there. When we applied them to manufacturing, they worked again. In short, everywhere we've tried them, they've worked. I discovered this when I dug deeper beneath the surface of what makes top performers. The more research I did, the more top performers I found who didn't necessarily match the first child pattern. For example, I talked with a number of high-performing, low-performing sales reps in a wholesale distribution company. Mary, I know this will interest you. In one study, I found quite the reverse of what I expected. There were more firstborns among the low performers than the high performers. I thought, what the heck's going on here? But I kept talking with the people. I began to focus more on the leaders, and I discovered something very interesting. The leaders of the high performers were actually creating the 3 factors in the job setting. That is, they were supplying the environment that usually gives the firstborns an advantage, which you can do. In another of my sales rep studies, I focused specifically on how good the sales managers were at introducing the 3 factors in the workplace, and I designed a test to measure the results. And sure enough, the managers at the high performers scored 22% higher in the ability to create the 3 factors than the managers of the low performers. I interviewed company presidents who achieved. So anyways, I'm not going to read this whole thing, okay? But the bottom line is it's something that you can do. And so what I did is, and this is part of this book too, one of the key elements, and because of a lack of time, I'm not going to go into it, but one of the key elements is accountability. All right? Accountability is super, super, super critical, okay? And so what I did is I created a new accountability sheet for my bay shop based on what I perceive as being the most important things. And this is not the final version, but it's close, and I'm going to tweak it a little bit more after I did this, but just want to show you what I did here, okay? Can you see that? All right, what do I want to have happen in my bay shop, okay? Basically, it's what Kurt was talking about, all right, is I want people to focus on getting promoted. Don't you? Because if people get promoted, especially to RVP, that's where you're going to start having a lot of freedom. Kurt called me about a week ago or so, and maybe 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was. He calls me and says he's a little bit feeling down. He goes, I haven't produced any RVPs, and and he's all depressed about that. Not though, but he was concerned, right? And I said to him, Kurt, the reason you haven't produced RVPs is you never have, gotten recruiting going to the point and had built a $50,000 base shop, so you have the environment to produce RVPs. That's all that's happened. Like, you guys don't have RVPs right now? Guess why? You never have produced an environment that has the potential to create RVPs. As long as you insist on being small, you insist on not producing RVPs. That's a choice you're making. You don't have to stay there. That's all you have to do is decide to start recruiting people, right? You can change that if you want to. So I said, if you would go recruit, 30 people a month and build a 50, 60, 75 grand base shop, you'll start producing RVPs. They'll start popping out 2 or 3 or 4 a year. And, in 5 years, you'll have, 10, 15 directs, and you'll be done. It's not that complicated, right? The formula is the same for everybody. But you first have to have the base shop. You can't do a 10, 15, even $20,000 base shop and say, I want to produce a big hierarchy. It's not possible. I don't care who you are, okay? So I said, look at this. I put all the basic information, but current level, right? I want to know where they're at, and I have circle 1. And then let's say that I'm dealing with Rick here. Rick's a new guy, or he's in my base shop. I want Rick to point out the steps to his next promotion. I want him to write down the exact requirements, right? Because Rick may be maybe Rick's the 3rd generation in my base shop. Maybe Mike hired Kurt, and then Kurt hired Rick. Okay? So he's really kind of removed from me, and I don't have as much contact with Rick as I do with Mike and maybe even Kurt. Doesn't that work out in your base shops, right? So I don't have a lot of contact with them. So he said, let's say he's a senior rep right now. Rick is, right? I want to make sure that he knows what he needs to do to get the next promotion. You know how many people in your base shop do not know what they have to do to get their next promotion? Most of them. Okay? Most of them. So then this way it forces them, and I said, if you don't know what it takes, get with your upline and make sure you find out what you need to do. Okay, Rick? So Rick's right here, and he says, well, I'm not really sure. Well, get with Kurt or get with Mike and make sure you know exactly what you need to do so because see, if you don't know where the target is, how do you hit it? It's like throwing darts in the dark. Huh? That doesn't work. Okay? You have to know what you're trying to hit. So I want him to know how many recruits he needs and what premium he needs and when that next date is. So there's a deadline, there's exactly what he needs to do, and then there's a date when he's going to hit it, right? So if you have created an environment in your base shop where everybody has a focus on trying to get their next promotion, what's automatically has to happen if everybody knows exactly and then is working towards getting a promotion? What will you do more of? Well, you'll do more premium and more recruits, which is what you want, isn't it? Okay? So it starts there. That's why I had that first. I want people focused on that. Even you that are an RVP, right? To go to SVP, you need to know exactly what you need to do, right? Okay? So then I have life insurance, right? Because to me, these two goals are kind of the same. But if you have a life insurance goal, let's say your goal is to, and I put number of transactions. Say your goal is to do 4 transactions, Rick. You're a strong part-timer. I want you to know how many appointments do you have to hit that goal? Huh? Yeah, but I want you to know because a lot of these people, they think, well, I want to do four sales, so I'm going to set up 4 appointments, 1 a week. Well, guess what? There's no chance of doing 4 sales if you set up 4 appointments. I want him to know that he has to set up 8 or 10 appointments to get the 4 transactions. I want him focused on that number so he doesn't get diluted or depressed because he doesn't hit the number. Plus, if you got everybody focused on many more appointments within the base shop, what's going to happen in your base shop? More of everything's going to happen in your base shop, right? Because appointments drive everything, don't they? Okay? Same thing with recruits. If you have a 2 recruit goal, how many recruiting appointments do you have to get 2 recruits? 8, 10? I don't know. Okay? Same thing with, and then weekly op night guests. So if he wants to have 2 guests this week, you have to invite how many? 8 or 10? I don't know. More than 2, because if you invite 2, no chance you're going to get 2 there. I mean, you might every now and then get lucky, but not probable. I want people to learn the numbers. You understand the numbers so that they don't get depressed by the numbers. And then, securities, blah, blah, blah. And then this is one of the most important things that I put in here, which is what I was really, really focused on. If you guys remember when you were in my base shop, right, I was always talking about personal development. And every week, I would get a book like this. I'd read a book, right? Every week, I had a new book that I was reading out of, if you remember. Every week, I had a book. I read something out of it. I primaricized it, and then I talked about it on Saturday morning. I did that every week for years and years, okay? Why did I do that? Because I realized most of you won't do it, okay? So I did it to make sure at least you got part, like this here. I mean, you probably won't get the book and read it, but now you have a taste of it anyways, right? Okay, so you have a kind of an idea. And then so I want to have the number of hours you're going to invest in personal development, because I want people to be clear that this is going to be critical for them to be successful here, that if they don't do this, it's probably not going to happen. This includes Saturday training, reading tapes, CDs, practice drill, rehearsing, scripts, and presentation. That's what it is to me, all right? Like a op night is not personal development, okay? Your success will be directly correlated to how disciplined you are in preparing yourself. Success is found where opportunity and preparation meet. Through preparation, success is inevitable. I want them to get that correlation. I'm going to talk about it incessantly. If I can get you working on yourself and growing yourself and working on your thought process, I am going to help you. You're going to be more successful because you're going to get more self-confident, you're going to be more attractive. Everything's going to happen as a result of that. If I can't get you working on yourself and growing yourself, your self-confidence isn't going to grow, and the chances of you becoming this great leader are probably slim and none, right? Got to get people doing that. And then I wrote this as a little thing I wrote to my base shop, okay, so that we're clear on what our duties are, right? So I said, okay, teammates, my goal is for you to accomplish your goals regardless of their size or scope. I am totally committed to you and your success. I will invest my time in those of you who are serious about your success. I will judge your seriousness based on your behavior. You and you alone control your behavior, and you alone control your level of success. I want them to own their success, okay? I will coach and guide you to any level of success you desire. Ultimately, I can't and won't do it for you, but I can help you if you'll submit to my coaching, mentoring, and accountability. I want them to know that's the part of the deal, okay? If they're not willing to do that, it's not going to happen, okay? And I put right here, this, of course, is 100% voluntary. And it is. It's 100% voluntary, okay? I only work with willing participants. I will not hound or chase you. I realize people have different goals and dreams and levels of self-confidence, and I won't push you more than you want to be pushed. I'm not your boss, nor do I want to be your boss. I'm not interested in being somebody's boss. I'm their coach. I'm their mentor. I'm their leader. I'm not your boss. I don't want to be your boss, okay? I simply want you to have what you desire for you and your family. Whatever that is, I don't really care what it is. To me, it's none of my business what it is. You know what you want, and that's whatever that is, I will help you get that. Okay, if that means you want to just be able to have your wife stay home and, put your kids in private school, and that's the level of your dreams, I'll help you do that. I don't care what it is. If you want to make $100,000 a year or $100,000 a month, you tell me, and then I'll coach you, all right? So, be clear about what you want, and I will be clear about how and what you must do to accomplish it with Primerica. I can't wait to help you, Coach Lamarck. And then I have my Go Solo number here. And Go Solo is how we communicate. If you're not going to get on Go Solo, there's nothing I can do for you, right? I mean, I don't have time to call everybody every day, right? None of us do, but we can communicate through Go Solo. I do it with a bunch of you, man. Alan calls me every night. Daniel calls me all the time. The Ramirez's, Alex just called me. He wants to start calling me. That's great. Mike calls me all the time. Some of you call me, some of you don't. I don't, whatever. Okay, I'm here. I'm trying to help you. If you want to be helped, let me help you. If you don't want to be helped, great. If you don't want to be held accountable, then, probably not going to do that well. Okay? So this is bringing out the best in others. Accountability, the strength of discipline. What's the number one requirement for getting things done? Well, you already heard this. Don't say anything, okay? What do you think the number one requirement to getting things done is? Huh? Deciding to do it? The answer is someone's got to do it. If you want to get something done, someone's got to do it. Right? Too easy? Too obvious? That's why everyone misses it. It's such an important factor we tend to overlook it. Whenever you see a team with good intentions but not performing well, lack of accountability is usually the key issue. Without accountability, nothing ever really gets done. Some identifiable person has to own the goal, although many will play a role in getting to the final result. Someone has to be ultimately accountable. Anything that is everyone's responsibility quickly becomes no one's responsibility. Lack of accountability simply paves the way to mediocrity. Too many people wait around for something to happen, hoping for the best. They seem to be waiting for someone else to take the lead, even if the task at hand is something they are supposed to do. No one is coming. In other words, no use waiting for someone else to start things rolling. It's up to you. So what do you, first thing, establish accountability. This begins with you. If you're not accountable, it will be more difficult to hold your people accountable. Those of you that aren't accountable to somebody, I guess what? You probably suck at holding people accountable. Okay? I guarantee it. You're not good at it because you're not doing it yourself. Remember, accountability, find someone who will help you do that. Remember, accountability isn't to punish you or make you feel bad about yourself. It's to help you to get the result you want. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what it's for. Okay? It's not to make you feel bad about yourself. It's not to embarrass you. That's not the point. The point is to get you to do the things you need to do to get where you want to go. That's all it's for. Okay? Set goals. Be sure everyone understands the goal. I use an accountability sheet, which I showed you, with the goals I believe are the most important for someone who wants to become successful in Primerica. Develop action plans. You need an action plan for how the goals to be reached. Goals aren't reached by accident. They're achieved by design. Think of the action plan as an insurance policy that the goal will be reached. So you got to, if somebody says, I want to do this, you need to be able to explain to them what activity and what they need to do to make that happen. Okay? So that they know what's in store for them. And then they can decide whether they want to proceed or not. Okay? And that needs to be clear. Engage your people in identifying with their goals, developing plans. So you do that with them. Okay? Help them do that, because new people don't know how to do that. Goals help with two things. We're just about done. In particular, first, they create a proactive mindset rather than a reactive mindset. And second, they create a focus. Too many people fall into the activity trap. They get so caught up in the activity, they lose sight of why they're doing it. Goals are what you expect to see accomplished by carrying out your action plans, and that's what you want people accountable for, reaching their goals. The Breakfast Club lets the team know your goals for the next week, and then you're able to be accountable to them with consequences. That's what happens there, right? You let, like if it was today, Friday, you let everybody know what you plan on doing, and so now you publicly say it. Now you're accountable to the team to perform on that between now and the next Friday. That's that simple, right? When the consequences are, if you don't do it, you get a little embarrassed, right? But I mean, they don't hit you with a stick. You just something goofy, right? Just enough pain to get you to think about it every day and stay focused on the ultimate goal, right? That's what it's for, right? Because those of you that have a lot of pride, you go, "I'm no way I'm wearing a tutu," or whatever it is, right? You do whatever it takes to make sure that doesn't happen. And it's one of those things that on a typical day where you probably wouldn't do that, you'd relax. You go, "I can't relax. I got to make a call. I'm behind. I got to get it done." And it makes you do the very thing you don't want to do, because most of the things we have to do to be successful, we don't want to do them. Let's face it, okay? That's all it does. It gets you to do what you normally wouldn't do. This is why it works. It gets those who commit to do much better than they would by themselves. Remember, nothing ever gets done without accountability. And you know that's true. It just doesn't. You look at everything. Those of you who have children, if you didn't hold them accountable to doing certain things, they would all turn into animals, right? You leave them to their own devices, that's what they would be, okay? But it's you holding them accountable. Did you brush your teeth? Did you take a bath? Did you make up your bed? Did you do what, right? Did you do your homework, right? If you have kids and you care about your kids, your job is to hold them accountable to doing certain things so that they can function in this society, right? That's what we do as parents. And the more accountable you hold them, probably the more successful they're going to become. You know, that was one of the, Jan is the accountability queen. Right? She even does it with me. Did you call them? Did you do this? She's always reminding me, did you do this? Did you do that? And I don't get mad. I just go, "Oh, yeah, I forgot. I'll do it now. And I do it. And I just, instead of going, "Oh, yes, why do you keep on asking me that?" I look at it like she's helping me to be more effective, to get the job done. See, you get mad when your spouse holds you accountable. You're dumb to get mad. You should go, "Hey, thank you. Yeah, I'll do that." Just do it, right? And then what happens now, when I know I need to do something, I'm hearing Jan saying, "Did you do this?" I don't want to hear her say that, so I just do it so I don't have to hear her say it. You with me? Right? Just like if you're accountable to me or your upline, right? You know I'm going to ask you, "Did you close that sale? Did you do this?" Or have you did it? Right? So you rather just do it because you know I'm going to ask you, right? So you do it. There we go. That's it. That's the deal, right? We need help. All of us do, right? Quit being, stubborn. Get some help. All we're looking for is people who are serious about their life, guys. The ones that aren't here, they're not serious. They can't be. They're just not. Okay? And they're not part of a team. This is our team right now, right? Like it, don't like it, this is what it is. Okay? This is my little RVP team right here in this area. I got another RVP team I have a conference call tomorrow, but this is my RVP team. You know, this is what I've got to work with. This is where I am. And so we're going to make this thing grow. You guys are focused, you're getting better, your base shops are growing, you're doing better, and we're going to grow. It just is. It's going to happen.
This concludes this tape. For more information on the book that Hector was referring to, the book's title is Bringing Out the Best in Others, 3 Keys for Business Leaders, Educators, Coaches, and Parents, by Thomas Connellan, Connellan.